Hello and welcome to episode 154 of Michael and Ivanka's Grand Podcast, a weekly podcast where we figure out what we think about absolutely everything in the universe. My name's Michael Forrest.
And I'm Ivanka Magic.
And she's Ivanka Magic.
I am.
And this week, we're going to talk about paying everyone the same.
What?
Because I saw, imagine that. Imagine if everyone got paid the same, which is an idea I'm running with my little business. And I saw a BBC News story about a man who tried to pay everyone the same and why it didn't work. So I just thought it'd be interesting because I think it's the most obvious article in the world to publish on the subject. Because of course paying everyone the same couldn't possibly work, because people have different levels of skills and people deserve different amounts of money, and some people are simply better than others.
It's true, though.
Some people's contributions are simply more valuable than others. So I just wanted to think about it a bit more.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think that's good. I have thought about it. I've I was going to say we sort of do it. We do, but also now that it's not that straightforward, only in as much as I'm putting my freelancer earnings through, and Nick and I are putting all that money into the same business, and these things are not equal, if you see what I mean. They're separate projects. Anyway, but what I have been thinking about in these terms are, I've been on projects where problems get solved by pushing problems to a cheaper workforce. If you see what, so it's like, we've come up with this new solution to this problem. We'll get these, this happens in the public sector. Grade A, I never know which grades or bands are higher or lower, but we'll push it to a lower band person, and therefore it doesn't matter that it's a shit job. Do you know what I mean? Okay. There's that kind of disrespectful element, or that laziness about solving the full problem end to end, because it's no longer a problem if the person doing it doesn't get paid loads of money, because many people can. Do you know what I mean?
Depends. Cheap labour.
Depends what you're measuring. So that I've thought about it in those terms, or the effects of paying people different amounts of money. Also, there's been, what is the statistic that the top 1% have made 450 billion trillion more money in the pandemic, and everyone else has got poorer. That kind of shit. It's just got to end.
It's just not good enough. Yeah, like a CEO getting paid 170 times more than the staff, and it's just not. That wealth is being created by everyone involved. So how is it okay that one person gets to take it all? This is the fundamental problem of our time. So that my sort of my radical activism is to try and pay people the same and figure out, and it is complicated, and there are a lot of details, and you've got to create boundaries, and you've got to create processes, I think, and it's kind of uncharted territory a bit. So this particular blog news story, I'm like, okay, well, he tried it that way, but I think he kind of missed a trick here and here and here. So it, just as a sort of looking at it, this one thing as a case study, and just talking about some of the things that spring to mind, and that you try, and things that the reasons it might not work, and trying to sort of head them off at the pass, and just think about it really. How are you, Ivanka Magic?
I'm good. I am good. I have started a new contract, which is 3 days a week, and it's an interesting problem. And so it's been quite liberating as well, because it's not try and solve this problem in this amount of time. It's can you join our team for this amount of time and do what you can in this amount of time, rather than we must get. And there's always things to do, so that's quite nice. There's a bit more time to think, which is also very nice. And then I'm also trying to solve the problem of how to celebrate the child's birthday. when you can't have parties of the traditional variety. And it seems here what's happening is that people are taking little packets of, like those party bag type things, to nursery. And then the children are having kind of a pseudo little party at nursery. And then the child comes home with these little bags full of lollies and shit that I don't approve of.
That reminds me, I've got some biscuits in my bag.
What?
So I'm going to have after this podcast.
So I was trying to work out what I could do in, like, make a little party bag that's kind of least bad for the world type thing. So I thought, I found some little cardboard boxes of chalks. Everyone likes chalk, don't they? Children writing on pavements, drawing on walls, that kind of stuff.
I don't eat them.
They're not that little. They should be able to cope. And then, I don't know. You're not allowed to make any homemade food and take it in. So you can't make, because you can't buy here things like bear claws and yo-yos for those who, those kind of fruit leather things that you can persuade children are in fact sweets. But I can make
sultanas, them. Boxes of sultanas.
But they don't sell those little tiny boxes of sultanas here.
Okay.
So anyway,
make some little boxes.
Yeah, they'll all hate me. Then my child will tell me once again that I'm the worst mother in the world.
Well, I mean, you're really setting yourself up for a fall, to be honest, with this strategy. Like, who wants... Oh, no.
You're going to thank me later.
Oh, no. Whose birthday is it? Yeah, never mind. It's like one step away from a lump of coal. Some bits of chalk.
I was looking for little Lego figures, because everyone likes Lego figures, don't they? Surely?
Sure.
Do you not? Do you not like
Who doesn't
Lego?
love Lego? I was carrying around this little Lego Iron Man that Sharon gave me ages ago, but it wasn't a great likeness.
That is the problem. Anyway, then I found some on a site, the sort of Croatian eBay-ish thing, and this guy was like, all these Lego figures for £10. That was brilliant. He was like, no, £10 each. I was like, off. Fucking just
children.
Off.
Yeah, Lego's not.
It's a toy.
Cheap.
So it's not. So anyway, there you go. That's as far as I've got.
Okay. Well, I mean, listeners, if you've got any ideas about what you could do in Croatia to trick children into it. Like Sharon's mum used to give her carrots as treats and just brainwashed her.
You can do that, and my child has been brainwashed, but you can't really take in packets of carrots.
Yeah, I guess they're wet. Anyway, good luck with that.
Thanks. Anyway, how are you?
Maybe just buy some sweets like a normal person.
No. I probably will. Get some lollies. Yeah. Boiled sweet lollies. Let them all choke and rot their teeth. Who gives a fuck?
It's not your problem.
It's not my child.
How am I? I've had a... Do you know I was doing my...
little book suck again?
Eh?
I talk about little books. I said I could get some little books.
Oh,
yeah. Anyway, how are you?
How am I? I was doing my little. I'm going to make my little weekly report of my numbers and then focus on one number and circle the number. Well, my first number circling was revealed to be a great success. So I have improved my sales of good habits in-app purchases in 1 week by 3,800%.
What does that mean?
It means it went up from $4 to $74 of in-app purchases and just by putting in a little, I made a new little feature, a new screen for it, which is it's kind of cool looking, and just actually did a sales pitch in the app for why you might perhaps want to pay for an in-app purchase instead of just going, there's a thing, do you want it? Whatever, which it was before. So my first attempt to kind of look at numbers and change them has been very successful. And so the next one is try and get the changes conversion rates up for that app. So I have just had an approval on a new version of the app, which is free to download, and then a sort of Sketch-esque, no one's going to be familiar with that, but like you pay for premium updates for a period of time, which basically is a subscription, which I didn't really want to do a subscription, but it was the best way to do it. But even if you cancel it, you still keep everything that you unlocked up to the date that your subscription ends. So I'm hoping that we can start to get... That's my next number. So I shall report in probably in 2 weeks when I know what the results of that was. But yeah, had a very good. That's been very encouraging. So it's sort of like even just that one other app making non-negligible money is sort of will then like even out the kind of turbulence of the other one, and I feel like a real businessman.
You sound like a real businessman. You said words like turbulence and
unpredictability.
Business model.
That business synergy. I've created a synergy between two different taps in very different areas. Also, I've been streaming a lot this week because I've just been enjoying it, especially since my raid and all that. And actually, like my Done Good app, someone tried to sign up while I was streaming, and they said, "Oh, it gave me a server error," and I'm like, "Oh no!" And then I discovered that it's basically the sign up's been. If you refresh, it's okay, but who's refreshing when they see internal server error? Not many people. So I'd had like one registration in a month, and I was just like, it's just because I'm not marketing it. But then I realized, no, it's just because it's broken. But yeah, I got some new users on that, so that's progress on there as well. So business-wise, things are looking up, and I'm ready to start thinking about who I might actually be able to pay. Not yet. I actually didn't quite make enough to pay myself my baseline salary this month, so it's all like little beans at the moment, but it feels good to raise a number by nearly 4,000%.
It is. Numbers going up like that are great, unless it's your weight, in which case you'd be very sad.
I'm going to read this blog. I keep calling it a blog post because it's not that long. I just wanted to react to it a little bit. So this is on. We'll link to it in the description. Jeremy Howell, business reporter, BBC News. CEO secrets. We tried paying everyone the same salary. Full stop. It failed. And I was like, okay. When Calvin Benton started his psychotherapy company Spill, he had the idea of paying everyone the same amount of money. He thought it would bring harmony to the team. Instead, he was forced to abandon the scheme within a year because of the rancour it created and pay people according to their seniority and expertise. We realised that we had to pay attention to market forces, says Calvin. Sometimes traditional practices are there for a reason. So I was like, okay, that's where people tune out of the article and go, okay, not everything is as it should be. Wealth inequality is fine. Different people should get paid different amounts of money. And by extension, CEOs should make hundreds of times more money than everyone else, even though there's no way possible that they are possibly that amount more valuable than any other member of staff. So to continue, so it describes what it did, which is a therapy company. And then they've had this sales growth of 40% over the last years, partly because of lockdown, blah, blah, blah. Equal salary. So when they started, there were 5 people and everyone was pretty much contributing the same, he says. So we tried this experiment where we paid each of us an equal amount of money, regardless of experience, regardless of role. We wanted to challenge the traditional model of pay. We decided on 36 grand a year for everyone. We calculated that was a decent living wage for London. My first objection to that is that it's below the 55k threshold of it's money's not a problem anymore. And I would, in an ideal situation, everyone should be at least at that threshold, in my opinion, because you still got money problems at 36 grand.
You're still going to be striving to earn more.
Yeah, especially happiness is going to be a problem, right?
Yep.
They should know that as a mental health company, really. Initially, the measure worked well and fostered a lot of goodwill within the team. If we were going out for drinks, there wasn't a problem of who pays because no one gets paid anything else. Okay. And then as the company took off, they recruited new staff as a software developer, salesperson and clerical workers and decided to offer them all the same salary. This is when the problems started. Software developers are typically very in demand and they usually take a higher salary than 36 grand. Salespeople are typically paid on commission, so it was not a model which particularly suited either of those two industries. So we struggled to attract senior talent for the software role, and it got to about 3 months when the salesperson started asking to be paid according to targets, saying the fixed salary wasn't working. At the same time, Calvin was getting overwhelmed with applications for 36 grand a year clerical jobs. We're offering a lot more than other clerical jobs, and a lot of people were applying to the roles because they really wanted this high salary rather than wanting to work at Spill because they believed in the mission behind the company. So the equal pay system was starting to cause grumbling, and but before so obviously, yeah, if you're going to pay, it's going to be hard to hire a software developer at 36 grand. So the difference in how I've been always looked at it is it's not just salary, it's equity. My model, my way of thinking about this has been, I would rather choose time as a metric by which to kind of just start paying people, but then everyone that's contributing gets you split the profits equally as well. And what it seems like what he was doing, he was like splitting the salary among people, but then what's happening to any other revenue beyond that? I mean, maybe it's all just going straight back into the company and this is the only way it works, and I'm just being terribly naive about it all.
I don't know. We did an experiment where so we paid everybody the same for the RB project.
Restaurants Brighton.
And we had a baseline bonus that if we didn't lose or gain any clients in a month, that's bonus, the same bonus would be paid to everybody. And if we lost a client, that was slightly deducted. And if we gained a client, there would be, and the gain was bigger than the loss. Okay. But the idea being that if someone like me who never at all is client facing on RB, it's not really my thing, that we would have, we all contribute. If the site doesn't look good, if it's not performant, if they can't sell, there's no product to sell, the person doing writing the social media, it's an equal contribution to a sale. And that worked very well. We've had to stop that, obviously. But because of COVID. Because we are breaking even, but we're not in a position to pay out bonuses. And this way we can keep paying everybody and not lose anyone. But I think, that part of it matters too. I think there's two things. One that you raised, which is both the things you raised, which is the level at which, what set the 36,000 and how was that being reviewed, and how open was the review policy on that. Like if I know that if the business has this sales target, and when that sales target is reached, we will all get a bonus, a pay rise, something. That is different to we've set the salary at 36 grand. Like it still needs to be an ongoing conversation. Yeah.
So your sort of model of having bonuses and like financial incentives, you don't have to remove financial incentives but you just recognise that without someone to answer the phone, or with the website looking bad, or like a salesperson or whatever it is, like it's a sum of
all of the parts.
It's greater than the sum of its parts, And if you start sort of trying to separate it out and value one person's skills over another, which the market does. It does that for a reason, because some skills are more rarefied than others. Like not everyone's a software developer. And arguably more people would be able to pick up the phone and do a good job. But then, I don't know, maybe you get to really pick a really good clerical worker. I mean,
if you work in a really... I've recently done stuff with doctors. And obviously, if there's 5... if you're talking to one of the top 50 experts on noses in the world, then the way we reward those people right now is by paying them more. That's one way that I'm not sure that NHS pay, I don't know enough about the details of it. And so you've got these highly expert people that are rewarded. But as you say, in any organisation where there's a shared sense of responsibility for the outcome, everybody should see everybody working harder. So there's this idea that people contributing differently or whatever was we started to have some people who contributed more than others. Well, fire them.
It's like it is.
You can't. There's no room to slack in an organisation. Like it's like everybody pulled together, everyone gets the same. If you're not going to pull, it's the wrong organisation for you. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's
or like. And you don't, maybe it might be a sort of relief for some people to know that maybe like they don't have to work until midnight every night in order to because other people aren't doing that, and maybe we can sort of get on the same page a bit and take some of that toxic crunch pressure off people a bit. But yeah, I still but coming back to the how do you hire a developer? Well, you give them equity. It's easy to get. My salary might be lower, but if I'm working towards something where if it does blow up, I know that I'm going to get a slice of that pie. That's the whole game to me. That's the whole way you do it. So the fact that he wasn't doing that in any form, it doesn't surprise me that he wasn't able to hire certain sorts of people.
Or even work style, or, these days there's loads of different models, and it's never going to be just about the money, I don't think. We've talked about this a million times, you don't go to work. Of course, we all have to earn money, and earning it is important, and there's no discussion around that. But that is not the only way to create a rewarding working environment. And to not mention any other aspect in this article other than salary, one can only assume that was the only, we're going to do it all on equal pay. I think you've oversimplified the problem.
There was another couple of paragraphs, so let's just see if there's anything we've missed. So when we grew the team, we started to have some people who contributed more than others. You had some people who worked longer hours than others. The question started to arise, should this person be paid the same amount as me? That caused a conflict in the team and a conversation in the team and whether this experiment was right to continue. After a year, he bowed to pressure from his staff, scrapped the equal pay system, replacing it with a traditional structure of pay grades based on seniority in the company and technical expertise. I think it was a disappointment when the experiment failed. We wanted to do something that was democratic and egalitarian. But sometimes traditional practices are there for a reason. Sometimes you don't have to reinvent the mould for everything. One thing that came out of Spill's equal pay experiment, however, after it was scrapped, Calvin decided to make everyone's salary level common knowledge to the rest of staff. Since our salary policy is open, there are no rumours over who's being paid what. That has helped produce harmony in the office. And if you're in the therapy business, it's important to have harmony in your own workplace. So, pay transparency. Okay, that's one part of this, certainly.
Yeah.
And it's not something you often see. I think some companies actually you're not allowed to tell people, are you? There's still a lot of people.
I don't know. I've ever been told that. I think they expect you to not talk about it.
Yeah. Certainly, culturally, people don't talk about it, but I think sometimes it's in the contract.
If it has been, it'd be interesting to see someone being sued for divulging their earnings. I mean, what's always very helpful is if you've got someone on the inside who can tell you what other people, when you're going for your review, they can go, just to let you know that so-and-so earns this much money. And you can go, thank you. That is very useful insight. A very useful data point, but that requires contacts.
there's the atmosphere of the employee, the atmosphere of jobs is too often I am being given this job generously by my employer, and I must do everything to keep it, and that is my route to safety and security. It is not to rock the boat and just be grateful that I have this job, and they're giving something. I got the interview and they deigned to involve me, and now I'm scared about getting fired all the time. This is one of the reasons people don't even think about this kind of thing, isn't it? It's just, I'm just happy to have got through the door and maybe flattered to even be getting what I'm getting. So, but that just stops you having that question of wait a minute, there's a lot more wealth here than they're letting on, and why can they all have nice things and we can't? Like, what are they doing that, what's the difference?
I think it's kind of interesting as well from a point of view of the responsibility you bear. I'm thinking of like people now who are leading NHS trusts, or who are, they've got a humongous burden of responsibility on their shoulders. They can't deliver on that responsibility without everybody else, but the decisions they make or the decisions they sign off on or whatever it might be are going to have huge repercussions on everybody. And there's kind of, we're not just rewarding them for their skill, we're rewarding them in a way for taking that responsibility. And it's like, I mean, why would you do that job if you didn't get the big bucks?
Well, but then in some ways, if you've already got the big bucks, like there is a bit of a what is it on a Atletico Mints, destroy and exit like mindset, which is, I'm just gonna probably play fast and loose with this because I've already got the money. I'll get some big exit bonus if I make a mess anyway, and like it takes away the intrinsic reward of actually like achieving something and being I made some decisions and I am responsible for this thing that is helping thousands, millions of people. And surely, I mean, shouldn't that be much more of a reward than like 100 grand?
Yeah, but if you're working hugely long hours because you've got to meet with lots of people and you're managing your NHS Trust's response to a pandemic, and you are not sleeping because you're worried about, you're giving a huge amount of your life force to this thing.
So this is where like when I've been thinking about how to set up a system, it does come down, that is one of the big questions. And I always thought, like, what are the problems with just, like, if we just start with it's time, and then I guess like recognise that someone with a lot of responsibility is essentially on the job 24 hours a day, and maybe just like make that the metric, and have a sophisticated attitude about the nature of creativity, whereby, okay, there's it's important to turn up and be there, and like inspiration has to find you working, all that. But at the same time, like if there is sort of creative stuff happening in the background, then that's as you say, like sort of taking some of your life force, and that should probably be factored into that, how much time. And so even if like the people with the most responsibility, you just go, okay, well, we'll pay you like whatever your time will be remunerated at essentially the number of hours in a week. And someone that comes in and sort of answers the phone in the daytime, like, you just get paid for that time because they get that luxury of being able to switch off when they leave the office. I'm just kind of like thinking about this as we sit there, but I think that's like defensible, isn't it, as a way of structuring it? But it puts a cap on it because there's only so many hours. And
that's what I think that sort of top role has to have a cap, and the bottom role has to have a baseline. There's that sort of, like, if we're going to talk top and bottom, but that sort of high responsibility and low responsibility. If we talk about it in terms of responsibility, and the higher the responsibility, the assumption being that the more time you're going to, more brain cycles you are going to spend on it, and you're never going to be able to switch off, really. Yeah. There's no holiday and there's no weekend, not in real terms. And then you could, and I think we've solved it.
But part of this though is like I guess you give people contracted hours, and I guess it goes into that whole overtime thing. Like if you're kind of creating an incentive for people to appear to be working for longer in order to get that proportional remuneration. But I think like you solve that just by going, okay, well, no, you're like, you can go home, and this is how many hours that we've agreed to pay you for. Like and then. So we've solved it. Sorted. What's second?
what is missing for me in this article is the fact, or what the criticism I have of it is that it's very one-dimensional. It's talking about it in a single dimension. I think that transparency is definitely a positive outcome, but it's because it means that it removes that sort of whole "I'm better at negotiating than you" type issue, which is not fair, really. I don't think, you know.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, I think.
But it leaves out the whole question of why. Like it doesn't even, like, this journalist doesn't even like ask why. Like, why are you doing this? It's like there's a sort of blindness to the fact that the problems caused by the system that this company was trying to subvert.
Yeah.
And, you know, that sort of ultimately, like, massive wealth inequality. And they sort of made it about, no, this doesn't work, let's keep things as they are, which is, just crazy to me. Like, one of the biggest open questions I've got is more around okay, say this thing takes off. Well, one of the things I've been doing, the way I've been thinking about it for my company is I've got, like, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, like 4 active products, let's say. And so if I've got one person contributing to one of those, if another one is successful, I'm not really, there's a boundary for me there, which is, well, I don't have to give you any money from that one because you literally contributed nothing to that. And I've made the decision to try and another one, I've just made the decision to try and get that design figured out on my own, for example, rather than sort of bring someone else in and then sort of feel the need to have to sort of like split the money kind of thing. But more of a question comes, like, I sort of brought someone in to try and help on this project, under this idea of, well, track your hours and, like, well, I'll sort of make sure you get, if once there's money comes out. Like, my theory with this has always been that, like, okay, once there's more brain power in this, then, like, surely we can get these numbers up to a level where we can start, giving people money. But then this person, like, sort of didn't really kind of end up contributing very much at all, and it was ongoing for a while. And then it sort of came down to this question of, okay, well, say if it suddenly kicked off now, we have to be quite clear about your status as someone with equity and where the boundary of that, like, is it people that are currently working at the company, or is it people that worked at the company before or have ever worked at the company, or, like, how do you create those sort of equity boundaries? Is it like you get some share, like, do you do it that model, like, here are your shares in the company, and maybe you kind of, the hours turn into, well, this is your sort of percentage points in the company sort of thing. So you can tell I don't know very much about any of this, and I'm terribly naive about it all. But how do you create that boundary of, like, so that you don't have to, someone that came and did one day of work now has 50% of the, 30% of the, none of these numbers are correct. 25% of future profits. That doesn't seem right either.
On the experiment we did, which I was perfectly happy to keep in place, it was working. Because basically, if things neither grew nor shrunk, you got a bonus. So at school, it's like, and then and we did a thing where the payout related to 3 months previous, so that if it was about getting a new customer, they had to remain a customer for at least 3 months before that was reflected, because people say all sorts of things that don't mean it. So we did that, but there was no question of having ownership in the company or owning the project. It was like, while you're actively working, this system applies. We did pay out somebody who left, who stopped actively contributing. We paid out all the bonuses to the point at which she'd been working. Paid out all the bonuses to the point at which they had been working on the project. So, but I think it is tricky. And I think it's, if you're setting up a new thing where there's no concept of whether it's going to work ever, I personally don't like so many people get in touch. So many, it's ridiculous. Get in touch with us from our Restaurants Brighton perspective, because we have visibility. We have a lot of visibility in Brighton. So people go, hi, I've got this thing. If you'll partner with me to launch it, I'll give you 0.02% commission on it. Well, how about you give me a few £1,000 so that we can create all the content and put you in touch with our audience that we've worked hard to develop. And then if your thing works, you can give us some more money. It's like, do you know what I mean? It just feels like a very... so I do think separating out time worked and reward for success is useful.
Yeah, and that's something that was the first thing, that was the first problem that someone said something to me and I was like, okay, yeah, so we can do hours. That's fine, because then I'm not like, well, why am I spending 500 hours on this and then someone else is spending 5 hours on it? And like, how's that work? And knowing that certainly in the short term, the sort of equal, everyone gets paid the same out of profit, spare profit only really comes in the situation where you have like suddenly exploded, and then I think that's the time that belongs. And that's the time when those billionaires are usually created. So this is like a defense against that, if anything. And then meanwhile, if you can do it all on sort of hours, then I think that's a pretty good way to look at it.
I think so. Hours or effort or value, value.
And just be aware that not like, one thing in isolation isn't worth very much at all. Like you may be an amazing programmer, but if your work looks terrible because you haven't got a designer involved, then you're not going to succeed.
No,
and I don't care. Like, or it's going to look the same as the default template that everyone uses, or that kind of thing. So I just wish this article had some awareness that there was a problem that needed to be solved, because it doesn't. It just goes, shut it down. Doesn't work. Things are fine. And they're not.
No. That sentence that some traditional things are there for a reason. Yeah, but what is that reason? The reason is wealth creation in a small percentage of people. That's the reason. The reason, that is it. That is what it's done.
Hugely damaging to everything.
It's a bad reason that it exists.
And it should. The conclusion should be, well, this approach had problems. Not like abandon it forever and go back to how things have always been. Like maybe we can try something different. Like that's what I wish the conversation was a bit, because there's a lot to hammer out here, and probably different things work for different companies. And even if it was like, there needs to be a minimum, just like CEO salary caps would solve a lot of problems probably. I don't know how you enforce or do anything with that, but yeah.
I think this article is just not told us enough, basically. It's like, blah, 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 it's equal. It doesn't work. Everybody go back to how it was,
Everybody go back to normal. It's sort of like, I keep like thinking about the GameStop thing today. We that just all hit yesterday, this GameStop stuff, and this capitalism. Well, and also even seeing Robert Reich's thing, socialism for the rich, harsh capitalism for the rest of us. And then hedge funds are allowed to like play fast and loose with stocks and prices and market manipulation, but as soon as people try to do it, no, we're going to shut you down, like that Robin Hood stuff. Like they love it until other people start doing it, and then they're like, that's not fair though. Yeah, it's not fair. All this stuff is not fair, and maybe like no one should be allowed to do it.
I mean, the shorting thing is particularly rude.
It's pretty gross. But it's all that. It's all kind of feels like that same like subprime mortgage thing, and reselling and packaging like debt in different ways and selling it at a discount. And I just loved that story of those people that sort of bought back a load of discount debt and just forgave it. And it's like, well, the debt is only worth, like when you've got the debt, you think the debt is worth as much as the money that the debt says, but actually that's not true at all behind the scenes. They're just like trading it for whatever price. So why should you have to pay it all back if they don't? So I thought that was a brilliant one. Inequality, I think anything we can do towards like addressing that is going to move us forwards and solve a lot of problems.
Yep. It's not one-dimensional, though. It's complex. And to treat it in a one-dimensional way is a little bit...
We've all got our motivations.
Yeah.
And Kate Raworth even talks about, like, you take away the intrinsic motivation from things sometimes just by putting a financial value on it. And that's complex. Because it's hard to see any of these effects if it's just one company here and there and they're not even all living in the same place. It's hard to really see any effects, any of the sort of wider effects in terms of sustainability and general quality of life for everyone. But my dream for all this is if I didn't have to choose my career or profession or what I was going to do mostly based on how much the market happened to value it, a market which values a lot of nonsense jobs for some reason and undervalues a lot of jobs with mostly jobs with a lot of intrinsic value tend to be very underpaid. If that was no longer a question, and we've said this before, like it might be good if you were able to be a cleaner for a few months, if you'd been in some sort of, if you'd had like all the responsibility of being a CEO of a company for like 2 years, and then you still wanted to do stuff, but you just didn't want to do that, but you didn't want to have to sacrifice that salary. If you could just go and do the cleaning job for like a few months and just like get your head straight and just like just feel like it was simple again. I think like a lot of people could benefit from a world like that. I think it would just be a better place to live if there wasn't this market force on everything.
I keep coming back to this 36,000 figure that you... It's like, it's Dalston.
Yeah,
36,000 is not a lot of money. It excludes a bunch of people that maybe have got families or other responsibilities. It's like, well, how did they calculate the 36,000? Yeah. That's really what I want to know. I'm like, how did you come up with that number? Why that number? So,
and a lot of the benefits of all this only really come when you start doing it at scale as well, which is why it's important that the media doesn't just like shut down any inkling of it, because like one of the reasons that house prices are so crazy is that this small number of people have got a completely exponentially more money than everyone else, and it's just not a lot to them. Like 5 million for a house, a 3-bedroom house, like.
Well, that Sumo example, is it Sumo, the firm?
Yeah, Sumo is where all this
Sumo
comes from for me.
example is a really good one. It is very different. I think their number is bigger. I think it's 40, not 36. Right. It's in an area where houses are not 12 to £1 million for a little studio flat. And part of the write-up I saw on it was that it improved quality of life substantially for the area because more people had more money was being spent in the local economy. It's like it had knock-on effects. 36 grand in Dalston is going to do
It's not anything. It's not
sorry.
Nothing. Like you can't. Sorry. And I feel like I say this all the time, but like just if there wasn't this wealth gap and rich people had to spend all this extra money to separate themselves from all the poor people, if everyone was fine and everything was just nicer, like that's the way it should be, instead of like, oh, I happen to have got lucky in the way the world happens to work and I'm just going to protect myself and get my private club memberships and separate myself from the riffraff. This is what all these kind of things that you have to do as a rich person wouldn't really be such a pressure anymore, because you'd be like, everyone would be all right. So no one's going to try and mug you, because why would I do that? Like, I'm fine. I've got an iPhone already. Like,
yeah, there is that golden cage thing, but I think that's inequality is no good for anyone.
Thanks for listening. If you like the podcast, grandpodcast.com. Support us on Patreon if you want access to 1 Slack, 2 early releases of episodes, and those early releases, video form.
Then you can see
Imagine
my
that, see our
hood I've
faces.
knitted myself.
Yeah, Vanka's
Very
knitted a
good.
hood. Let's have a look.
Well, it
Can't
doesn't
really
work
see it.
very well with my ponytail, you see, but it is a hood.
Look at that. Wow, that's the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my entire life, and I would pay good money to see it. Where can people find you at Vanka?
People can find me at Ivanka on Twitter.
Find me at michaelforrestmusic.com and go to here.co.uk. And tell your friends and that
Please do.
if you liked
Please
it. And
do.
let us, if you've got any ideas on this, I'm certainly open to hearing them. As long as they're not like, that's never going to work because of the human condition. And these people just won't do that because people are selfish and terrible. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.